the Craft and Calling podcast. I am your host, Christine Marie, and I am so excited for today's conversation. We've talked in the past about how relationships are of utmost importance, but today we're talking more so about the nuts and bolts and the specifics about how relationships are both a give and a take, and also how it's not just top down, but also bottom up in terms of relationship building, because sometimes our juniors become our superiors and our superiors sometimes can become our juniors, and we're now the ones leading them. And so I am incredibly privileged to be joined here by Glenn Hugo, founder of PM Solutions Group, providing consulting services to specifically commercial real estate companies and property management firms. Glenn, help us really understand, just as we start this process, like what you all are doing, correct me if I'm wrong, you all are the nucleus, helping these firms really, there are these properties understand, like, here's the full scope of what's necessary. And then you actually are acting as liaise between multiple vendors rather than them having to do that work.
That is a perfect summary of it. Christine Marie, thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here. And that is the perfect little elevator pitch of what PM Solutions Group is all about. We are a tool to help property managers, asset managers, and the vendor partners. This is a collaborative exercise of truly refining and defining scopes of work, optimizing efficiencies in the performance of that scope of work, ideally saving money, reducing costs, which is paramount importance in a lot of markets where commercial real estate is still struggling, and in other markets helping elevate the service game. And at the same time, it's the vendor partner is entitled to make a profit and run their business. And if everybody's interests are aligned and everybody understands what the objective and the end goal is, then you've got a win-win.
Right. And Glenn, I mean, all of that hinges on relationships. And so before you started this group, you've been relationally driven from the get-go, it sounds like, from even kind of your upbringing. Can you give some context around how you came to really honor relationships to begin with, and what was kind of your backstory there?
Yeah. It goes way back. I'll bore everybody with the details, but really, my formative years were in the hotel business, worked for Hyatt Hotels for many years, right? It was all about the guest experience and making a guest happy, satisfied, so they were a return customer. And that was really the genesis of forging those relationships. You wanted to recognize a guest when they came back, assuming they recognized you first. You never overreached on it. And that really came through from there. And before my career in property management, I owned a catering company in Washington, D.C., very relationship driven. Food is a very emotional thing. And that predates the internet and social media, right? So the only way you were getting it was knocking on doors and making sure you had a happy customer that kept coming back. But even better, having a happy customer who was happy to help you grow your business, which indeed happened in my case in the first few months, and that helped the business explode. And after the catering business for the 5 years I ran it, decided I wanted to do something different. Ended up in property management by virtue of taking a summer class through BOMA, which is the big lobbying group, industry trade group for commercial real estate. And I had an instructor who at every class would end with a public service announcement of who's hiring for assistant manager, property manager, an engineer. In my very last class, there was an opportunity. She happened to know the hiring manager, put us in touch, and I landed the job. And from that moment on, I never forgot someone was willing to help me and was doing that knowledge share to help people network.
Okay, so I love how much of your story starts with customer service, because frankly, I think that's one of the things I'm really going to encourage my children, given who knows where we're going to be. My imaginary children. So I'll say in 15 years, who knows where we'll be. And the human-to-human relationship aspect, Glenn, if anything, it is of more importance now in this AI age and generation than ever before. It's that human-to-human understanding of getting the sense of what people might even, the intuitive nature of what people are not saying, that is of such critical importance because the AI can only deal with the input, with what
That's
they're
right.
given. So if the homeowner is only giving so much input, or the property manager is only giving so much, AI can only operate with what's been given them. And so the human to human relationship aspect, I actually think is the best, is one of the best even roles and career paths for us to develop that high EQ.
Yes.
Yeah, know how to handle technology, but man, that's just so incredibly important. But here's the problem: we're not taught how to do relationships.
Yeah.
We're not taught emotional intelligence in school. And
Yeah.
so I would love to hear from you, for taking the perspective, putting on, the hat of, I'm a fourth generation of a family painting business, actually in the Maryland, DC area. And so putting that hat on, if I'm coming and I'm looking at my business and I know if I'm going to scale and grow this thing, core tenets of a strong business is top down. What's the leadership ability to convey our values, our mission, our quality of excellence, successfully communicate that to the team, and then their ability to successfully communicate that to the customers, and then the ability to fulfill on that. And
Yeah.
obviously, there's multiple points along the way, but so much of growth hinges on the ability of the leader of the organization to successfully be able to communicate and empathize, both with their internal team and with customers. So if I'm, putting my hat on and looking at it from that perspective of, I was never taught EQ,
Right.
where do I start in terms of ensuring that I'm building relationships that really have equity?
Yeah, well, ideally, we would hope it would start at home, right? And some parental influences or familial influences on how people just treat each other, the grocery clerk, the guy at the gas station, whatever it might be. But I think I'm a huge proponent. I tell everybody this. I don't care what you do in life and in the world. Everybody's in a customer service business. You can be the world's best neurosurgeon. If you've got a horrible bedside manner, your career longevity and profitability might be pretty minimal. So I tell everybody, I can teach you anything you want to know about property management. I can't teach you the EQ part. I can't teach you how to be nice to people. I can't help teach you how to diffuse conflict. I mean, I can, right? But either you're capable of doing it or you're not. And so from where I sat, I generally almost never hired anybody if they had never done retail, hospitality, bar, restaurant, tend bar, hired a police officer. I'm like, well, you're used to working nights, holidays, and weekends and angry people. You'll fit right in. Um, and so, you're absolutely right. The social media and being on your phone all the time and the constant texting really does not give you the skills to do that.
Right.
Sports is a good avenue to do it, right? Because that way and some other social events,
Mm.
but it will be a challenge, unfortunately, going forward. And I think the pandemic made it substantially worse with kids isolated, not in a classroom. Um, but you kind of got to hope that at some point the switch goes off and says, oh, this is an important part of being a contributing member of society
Mm-hmm.
or in the workforce.
I love the encouragement on a sports team. Actually,
Yeah.
where I kind of cut my teeth in the marketing and brand side of things, because we have we work on actually being the business owner, but then we also do CMO services, chief marketing officer
Yep.
services for trades. The agency that I kind of cut my teeth with, they said we will never hire anyone who has never played on a sports team
Right.
because they're too much of an individual mindset of
Yep.
this is for my own gain,
Yeah.
or it's me, myself, and I out to do the task rather than having that team mindset. So I
Yeah.
love that. What else? Like if you were, because a lot of what we're seeing now, Glenn, is that these family businesses, their kids don't want to take it over.
Yeah.
So, like business owners listening now that do have kids, sports teams, what do you think about, to your point about service? I mean, getting waiting tables.
Yeah. Like, listen, they're and I have a lot of friends who had family owned businesses. Mom and dad made them go do something else before they ever joined the family business, right? Like you go work out your rough edges on somebody else's dime kind of thing. Um, but right, the introduction to the labor force is important. And I think before anybody even kind of does a customer contact experience, right? If it's a painting contractor, you're going to spend some time on a truck going out and, painting, right? You got to understand the craft in and of itself, right? And working with a diverse workforce and, homeowners or commercial property managers who might have some specific requirements. But
Right.
it is a learned skill, right? And for any of us who have customer service facing jobs, there are days when you just get beat up and stabbed and you
Yeah.
might fall under a rock, but you learn from it, right? Not everything's perfect all the time. I'm sorry, mea culpa goes a long way, and it just hones you.
Mm. So good. I really think you're absolutely right, man. Go get thrown into the lake to learn how to
Yeah,
swim.
kind of. Don't drown, but
Yeah, be careful. Wear a life jacket, but
yeah, we'll stay close by to help you. But yeah, sometimes you just gotta go and take that leap.
So let's talk then about really building the relationship. So once you've got them, um, do the practice, get into group settings, put yourself in a mix where it's not just dependent on you. Go out and interface with people.
Yeah.
And even if you're even if you're out of school, there's a lot that we can do on an intramural sports level.
Yeah.
There's also a lot that we could potentially do. I'm even thinking, in terms of a job, my sister, 26 years old, she went and became a bartender just for the community's sake.
Yeah.
So many people are existing behind a computer and they're lonely.
Yeah.
And so they're not getting that interfacing opportunity. So that's number one is like how to cultivate those skills. Just go and put yourself in a community setting. And then number two, once you have those relationships, so what are some of the cornerstones for you, Glenn, as you look back? I mean, even just you landed this massive deal in Miami for PM Solutions. What would you say are cornerstones that have really served you over the years as you have developed relationships? And it's not just developing them, but it's sustaining them.
Yeah, I think, fundamentally people like to do business with people they like. And so if you're willing to lean in and just learn a little bit about somebody, their family, where they're from, their likes, their dislikes, their sports team, just so you have something to talk about other than the business at hand, goes a long way, because then people remember you for being something other than the business owner, the salesperson, the BD person. And I think that's really important in terms of really developing and growing those relationships. And even just, I was always good about trying to get somebody's birthday and just send a birthday text, happy birthday, happy Mother's Day, happy Father's Day, whatever it was. And it was not business related. It was just kind of this human touch of, here I'm present and engaged with you in some other, for lack of a better, human way.
Right. Glenn, I'm so sorry. You're frozen on my end.
I see that. I am frozen as well.
Okay. I put it in the chat now. Does anyone else, can you maybe, it might take a minute to just refresh and then come back in the studio. Why don't you go ahead and do that, and then we'll come back together. And let me expound on that point while you do that. Y'all, what Glenn is saying is absolutely brilliant. It's one of the things right now. I'm actually working with a roofing company, and that's one of the things that we're looking at is how to, it's funny, just this morning we were talking about this very thing, to basically create a flow chart of the entire customer cycle. If the second they come into your business, and this is for any industry, but specifically it works really well with the trades because it's a little bit of a longer life cycle. It's very interactive. There's waiting times depending on if there's, design procurement, design follow through, offering that RFP bidding, all of those nuances that can add delays to the customer journey. Having a flow chart of the extent of how long that life cycle is, and then creating intentional touch points. And you can automate them to an extent, like send, a $10, $15 gift card if it's been 2 weeks and we're still doing the design. Enjoy your coffee while we're working hard on the back end, on the back end of creating your design. There's a lot of special things that we can do. We can automate it, but those personal touch points that Glenn's talking about are like added bonuses of when's their birthday. That's a reason for re-engagement. That's a reason to touch base again.
Mm-hmm.
And Glenn, to that point, especially when looking beyond just like it's kind of a one and done relationship, but it's
Yep.
long term. How do you actually store contacts? Like, do you have? Tell me about this, because I was just talking about vibe coding an app where we store it somewhere, because I'm like, I don't know how to keep track of all these wonderful humans I'm meeting.
Yeah, I will readily admit I am old school, and everybody is listed in my Outlook calendars, and I have,
I love
you know,
that.
the kids' names, birthdays, anything I can glean from people. And then for my core group of people, and this is just as, you know, my friends, business contacts, um, other important relationships, I have calendar reminders set up. So 8 a.m. on whatever day, it's recurring year after year, so you don't forget the birthday, the anniversary, whatever it is. Some of these, people, they were, I don't want to call them one and done. They were an important uh, relationship, piece of business, whatever it was. But it's the constant reinforcement, and it's reinforcement is probably even the best word, right? It's just the outreach, and these people I do like because we did business together. Um, but it also, that outreach sometimes just creates opportunities for you. They're like, oh my God, I was just thinking about you. A
Yeah.
friend, somebody, I know somebody who needs something, kind of thing.
Mm. Glenn, just yesterday, my darling and I were talking about this. Man, it was so encouraging. Somebody reached out to me yesterday and they were like, I just want you to know, I'm authoring my book and I mention you in it. Thank you so much for the impact you've made. And it was so meaningful, but man, I realized how many nice thoughts I think about people and I
Yeah.
never say anything. I never say anything.
Yeah.
Like, I think people are so impactful in each other's lives. And man, if we were to just actually communicate when we
Right.
have that thought.
I think people are afraid to, share their feelings, their emotions, right? And particularly it's hard when it's business related, because you don't want to blur boundaries. But I think it's important. So I have mentors throughout my career. I made a point to go have lunch with each of them before I retired
Yes.
last year, to thank them. We stayed in touch over the years, but there are some people who are profoundly impactful to me in my career, and lot of people who saved me from making bad decisions, and you're forever thankful for that, and that's a gift I feel like you have to pay forward as well.
Mm. Golly, I'm trying to remember. I know who said it. Justin Donald. He incredibly successful wealth management investor. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was that he did, but I think he reached out to one person every single Friday, and he has done that every single Friday for 20 years.
Nice.
And just that routine,
Yeah.
to your point, set the calendar reminder on an annual basis. Set aside a time, set a day, a time every morning, whatever it is, like create the habit and the routine.
Yes.
So every time you meet somebody, how do you do that? Do you save their contact in their phone? I've started taking photos with people and assigning the photo of us to the contact to help you remember.
That's a great idea. Yeah, it's everything from old school. Just grab a business card, I'll snap a shot of it and upload it. You can touch your iPhones now and share contact, which is super duper helpful. And it's, again, for me, I'm in a new market since we moved to Miami. Just kind of, I'm gonna call it starting over, just meeting new people. And again, 30 years in DC, I can tell you I knew everybody, but I knew a lot of faces. And here it's just, starting and honing my craft all over again with a new network.
I'm so glad to hear you say that. I just moved and I've been feeling the pain of the unfamiliar.
Yes.
And man, I think this is just the most timely conversation for me. And I feel heartened to know that you've been doing this for a while and it's still a challenge and a new
It is good to be uncomfortable sometimes, right? As unsettling as it can be, it really does help you kind of look at things a different way. And, I had a nice network, and, I'll call it a safety net in DC, right? It was just 30 years of relationships built up, and you have this resource pool. And here, started consulting business. I'm trying to drum up business with people who don't know me from Adam, other than I'm like, here's who I am and what I'm about. Here's my LinkedIn profile. And, hopefully I can help you with something down the road. And like every other, you know, deal takes time to get people comfortable with you, to take a leap with you.
Glenn, I'm so grateful you said the word discomfort because that really is. It's so
Yeah.
uncomfortable. And it's far easier for us to stay as operators rather
Yes.
than act as the owners,
Yep.
visionaries, and strategists that we should. And so, for folks who are reticent to go out and make connections and do the very thing that's necessary to grow the business, what are some good baby steps?
Yeah, I think sometimes it's as easy as just grabbing a cup of coffee with someone, right? Either go to their office, they come to your office, you meet at Starbucks or the local coffee joint, because right, it's limited. Yeah, if you have a cup of coffee, it's going to take you 30 minutes, and you'll be amazed at how many of those 30-minute coffees become an hour and a half. And I distinctly remember when I was running our Philly office, a woman showed up in my office unannounced to pitch me on some technology that the building was using. I'm like, fine, I'll give her 15 minutes. We spent 3 hours talking because
Wow.
we just had so much an interest in her technology at the time. It was very, very powerful.
That.
And I'm like, just cancel everything else. This is important. Right. And you just never know how you're going to connect. And, I've been on a date in 40 something years. It's a lot like dating, right? It's just, so you're
Right.
going to click, you're not going to click. Doesn't mean anybody's bad or good. Just
Right.
not the interest don't align at that point.
Mhm.
And you're going to grow your business. You got to go out and talk to people, right? Social media and all the advertising, all that stuff is good. But unless they know who's my person, who am I going to call to get something done, or when there's a problem, or I need help now, that matters.
I'm so grateful you said, social media is good. Glenn, I think it's so much easier to hide behind the computer. And I'm
Absolutely.
guilty of this. I actually have built a comfort level. Again, with discomfort, it's more comfortable for me to post on social. And so maybe for those of you listening, and maybe you're more comfortable cold calling or going out for coffee, but you're not comfortable posting on social. So this is just a good challenge of, where does your discomfort lie? Because therein could very well be the next level of growth, both for you personally and for your business.
Yeah, I agree. You gotta get comfortable with being uncomfortable, right?
Mhm.
Everybody, and we can do this on another segment, right? Everybody knows what they're really, really good at, right? I know what I'm great at. You know what you're great at, and you know what you're not so great at, right? And so either you have to figure out how to get better at what you're not great at, or you better go find some talent to help you fill that blind spot of what you're not great at, to help your organization grow and to keep things from going cockeyed on you.
So good. So, okay, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to those who didn't grow up being on a sports team and didn't grow up waiting tables or knowing how to kind of enter into that dynamic where they learned the power of EQ, much less so even real empathy. Emotional intelligence has two parts to the definition. The first has everything to do with you and me, and the second is very relational.
Yeah.
First part of emotional intelligence is the ability to be aware of, understand, control, and convey one's own emotions. And then the second part is the ability to handle interpersonal relationships judiciously and with empathy. So to that point, if people are like, I'm just not good at relationships, what do you encourage them to do in that regard? Is it, well, that's something you have to get over and you have to learn?
Yeah, right. Listen, I inherently believe some people just aren't people, and there are a lot of other avenues for you to be successful without having the EQ to have to deal with people all the time. I think on the other side is, if you have somebody who just hasn't gotten the skills there, then that's come to do a ride along with me. Come sit in this meeting, come sit in this pitch with me. Pretend you're taking notes and just kind of watch how it flows, because it can be a learned process. And we all know this, right? We've all had the super polished salesperson, and you're like, oh wow, he or she's got her pitch down and knows their stuff inside out, and it's like, but do you believe it? Right. So there's dichotomy of, excelling at what you do, but coming across as maybe a little insincere or a little too polished. But the skill can be learned, and obviously you can read books about it and all this other stuff. But it is like anything else. You got to do enough repetitions at it
Mm,
to kind of commence the skill or hone it or refine it.
so good. Putting in the reps.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really aware, one concept, Glenn, I think you're frozen again, so you might have to
Oh,
refresh. Uh, for those of you who kind of tune in, we have a couple different shows, the Craft and Calling, but also the Knowing Show. And on the Knowing Show, we talk a lot about Theodore Roosevelt's speech in 1914 in Paris, where he talks, it's titled Citizens in the Republic, but there's this section where he talks about what is notoriously known as the man in the arena. And that concept of the arena is that you're going in, you're getting beaten down, you're getting, your face marred with dust, and you get back up, and then you get beaten down again. And it's so much easier to be the critic on the sideline,
right.
and pointing. But man, if we are wanting to get to the next level, we have to fundamentally, I really believe this, and I'm curious if you have a different perspective here. I really believe that to get to the next level in any regard, it requires a taste of discomfort. And if we're not uncomfortable yet, we probably are not pushing ourselves to the greatest capacity and capability, which we have.
Yeah, I agree. I remember when I was a kid, we had a family friend who was attorney. He was a trial attorney. I was like 12 or 13. I'm like, have you ever lost a case? He's like, if you haven't lost a case, you're not trying cases. Like invariably, you're gonna lose. Might not be your first case, it might be your 30th, but
Yeah.
and I use this with my team all the time, and they would get frustrated about something not going right. And I would say, I think we'll all agree Tom Brady is a great quarterback. I'm like, go back and look at Tom Brady his first few years. He spent a lot of time on his tush,
Okay.
right? Just getting knocked over, right? He didn't have a great line. He was still finding his way for as good as he was out of college. And that's just how you get better. You just have to go out, and sometimes you kick and sometimes you get kicked, but it humbles you to a certain extent. They're great learning experiences of, gee, I probably shouldn't do that again, right? And you hopefully never do it again. And it's just, again, it kind of goes back to that customer contact and the ability to have the awareness of what's going on around you and
Yes.
be engaged. Like for my team, I told them all, I called it Goya, get off your, what, right? Go see the tenant. Don't send an email. Don't do a phone call, because you can't see somebody's eyes or how they're feeling or how frustrated they are, or just, maybe they're having a bad day and you just happen to be the lucky recipient of a little unhappiness today, right? And we're in a service business that comes with the territory.
Yeah.
But it's really the only way, if you're trying to grow a small business or expand a small business, you got to do it.
So good. So let's do some quick, just like rapid fire
Yeah.
on best memberships, associations, groups that you've been a part of over the years that have yielded the best, most meaningful relationships that have yielded return.
Yeah. So for the commercial real estate world, my go-to, and there were several, but I was very involved with BOMA and in DC. It's called AOBA, just to differentiate it from the BOMA National, which is also in DC. So for me, that's where I took my RPA classes, Real Property Administrator, where I met Gail Seekins, who was my first instructor with the public service announcements. And, fast forward 20 something years later, I actually interviewed for Gail's job when she was retiring. I took a pass on it for a variety of reasons, but right, the circle comes around. There's IROM for women who are in commercial real estate. There's CREW, Commercial Real Estate Women, powerful organization. I'm a huge fan of it. But even, locally, if there's not a trade association for whatever your small businesses, then there's just local civic things, the VFW, Elks, Shriners, whatever it is, volunteer at the hospital.
Yeah.
Right? It's just a great way to get out and just meet some other people again, where it's not necessarily all about work and business. It's some shared interests,
Mm,
right? And that, is a big push for third spaces, like the local coffee shop. If you're okay drinking the local bar, the wine bar, where you have, this, almost like Cheers, right? You have your little community of people, and you just never know who's going to sit down next to you at the table, the bar stool, and have a fun conversation. Anytime I'm out, anytime I'm traveling, I go to a restaurant, I sit at the bar. I want to talk to the bartender who knows everything about whatever city I'm in. And you never know who you're going to sit next to, who might also be traveling or might just be a local who's, having a cup of tea after work.
so good. So good. I really appreciate that perspective, especially to your point around there's just local trades associations
Yeah.
everywhere. And it's so helpful once you actually start looking. And yes, there's national, but also just
Yeah.
the local, whether it's small and it's not part of a chapter, but it's just in your area, man, they're loyal to each other.
Yes.
To what you do. I mean, gosh, you are, again, the nucleus where you're helping property managers work with vendors across the board. So it could be roofing, it could be plumbing,
Yep.
it could be landscaping, it could be a whole host of trades.
Yeah.
And here's something I think for all of us to consider. What are the businesses that bookend yours? Who comes in before you? Who comes in after? And where could there be affiliate partnerships set up?
Yeah, right. So, commercial property management, whether it's the office side or even on the residential side, which I don't do, right? The property managers touch everything. It just falls. They're the generalist of everything, right? They're lawyers, they're accountants, they're property managers, they're engineers, they're schedulers. Got a boatload of stuff going their way. I will tell anybody, we are always looking for a steady, reliable network of vendors, right? There's only going to be one janitorial company at a time. There's only going to be one security company at a time, one parking garage operator at a time, one elevator company at a time. But we need painters, electricians, plumbers. And, a lot of our long-term successful relationships came out of people we knew who worked at a company and then went off on their own. Right. So now, they're starting up their own business. They're maybe a little more agile. The pricing is obviously usually more competitive because they're just starting out. They don't have the overhead.
Yeah.
But that relationship existed with whatever that tech was that was in and out of your building all the time. And it's a great way to grow your business. And for the folks on the property management side, don't turn away somebody who shows up in your office with a box of cookies trying to pitch their business, because you just never know what they can do for you.
Right. So good. Glenn, I'm so grateful for this conversation. And actually, folks here in the chat have been asking for you to come back on.
Okay.
So we're doing a part 2. Would love to have you.
Did my mom and dad join?
Like, we're proud of Glenn.
We finally amounted to something.
That's so funny. No, it's true. There's an element, Glenn, to the ease at which you can interact with people. Yeah. And I think it's really sensed just by listening to you, but also I think that aspect of just putting in the reps, just asking the bartender, how was your day? And like practice with somebody who they're getting paid to be kind to you. Okay, we can start there and cultivate the skill. Yeah. And it's interesting, Glenn, this translates way beyond business. Yes. This is such a lonely culture. Yeah. People are more lonely than ever before. And so I'd love to have you on the Knowing Show where we can maybe talk more about this in depth.
Absolutely. Would love to.
Wonderful. Well, Glenn, how can people learn more about PM Solutions Group?
Yeah, so swing on by. We have a website, pmsolutionsgroup.net. And the easiest way to remember the net is because we're here to network. So I've got, a bunch of other consultants under my umbrella who are all very talented in what they do and many years of experience. You can follow me on LinkedIn, and we're here to help. If anybody needs help or just want to shoot the breeze on something else, reach out to me.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Glenn. So grateful for you. Y'all, thank you for joining us today. We will see you next time. And
absolutely.